Here's a question from Alex. He says you have a great website with a lot of useful information. Thank you very much. We do our best. His question is, from your knowledge and experience, which countries other than Ecuador offer the best infrastructure, e.g., quality housing, clean water, healthcare, internet, and most political stability on a small budget? Thank you very much. Um, okay, on a small budget. Um, you know, Ecuador stands out, I guess, as one of the more affordable places to live and invest. But I do find, in Latin America, whether it's Panama, Costa Rica, Mexico, Ecuador, even Uruguay, the margin of difference in terms of cost of living isn't that great. They're fairly comparable, more or less in the same ballpark, and really the difference in cost of living depends not so much on the country that you choose, but in the type of community, whether you live in a big city or whether you live, in a remote area, and then the type of lifestyle that you live. So, while rent and housing can be a lot more affordable in these countries, usually to find the really real cost savings, um, you know, you you're going to mainly find it in rent and housing, and probably not in everything else that you spend on. Um, I find that the countries, in parts of Asia are still extremely affordable, and countries like Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Cambodia, um, you know, going over there, it really feels like a different world in terms of how far your dollar goes. And I think we're working on getting more and more information about that part of the world. But in terms of stretching your dollar, I think some parts of Asia are going to do a even better job, and be even more affordable in many ways. One of the challenges with places like Panama and Mexico, Costa Rica, is most of the areas that target foreigners have gotten a little more, quite a bit more expensive, and it's almost hard to really save, um, compared to what you would spend back home. If you go into Ecuador, your options are a little bit better in terms of affordability. Um, I wouldn't consider Uruguay to be any cheaper than Panama. In fact, it might even be more expensive. Um, but again, I don't think the differences in cost of living are quite as dramatic in between among these different countries than you might think. They're all fairly similar in many respects, and if you avoid the heavy touristy zones, you should be able to find local standards of living. But a lot of people aren't willing to give up the amenities that they find in a touristy area, so they end up paying for it in higher rent. So that's a trade-off you kind of have to look for, and I think Latin America certainly has some opportunities, and I think Asia is definitely worth a look, because it's still very affordable. Their currencies are still trading very low compared to the U.S. dollar.